welcome to Puzzle Master. Today I'm going to be showing you the solution for the Hanayama UFO puzzle, which means I'm going to show you how you can get those 4 ball pieces out of those 2 outer shell pieces, and then how you can put it all back together again. Now the UFO puzzle is a level 4 out of a possible 6 on Hanayama's own difficulty scale, and it is a level 8 out of 10 on our own Puzzle Master difficulty scale. And if you don't already have the UFO puzzle, then check out our website puzzlemaster.ca, and without further ado, let's get into the solution. So here we have a fully assembled UFO puzzle. Now, before we get into it, the pieces, I'm going to describe each piece as these 2 pieces on the outside are the shell pieces, and these bits on the inside are just the ball pieces. But it'll make more sense in a second in terms of which piece is which on the inside of these ball pieces. But first, what I need you to notice or to know is that the sides of the shell pieces, these circle gaps in the middle, are different. The side with the UFO and the Hanayama engraving, the circle and the gap in the middle is bigger than this circle here. So that is important because we only need this big circle here, because here is where some of these pieces are going to be coming out of. But before that, we need to know, it's going to be much easier to know what you're doing and what you're looking for if you know what each of these 4 pieces look like from the inside. So first of all, we'll show you that. So if we look at the 4 pieces that make up the ball on the inside of these 2 shell pieces here, you'll notice that they are labelled 1, 2 and 3. And they are labelled that because they are all slightly different. So if we look at this number 1 piece here, you'll see that there are no borders in here on either side of this number 1 piece. Whereas if we look at either one of the number 2 pieces, they are exactly the same. You'll notice that this side has a much higher border in comparison with this side here, and that's the same for the other number 2 piece. And the number 3 piece is completely different to both of those because they have a big border more on the outside of this piece on there. Now that matters because of the order then which these 4 pieces are arranged. And the position that we're aiming for is to have what we're trying to do is slide this number 1 piece with the no borders out through one of the holes. But to do that, we have to arrange these other 3 pieces in exactly the right order, so that, and the correct order is this position here when I get it right. Because what you'll see looking down there is that there's very little things blocking that number 1 piece from sliding on and off of here. Whereas if we swapped the number 2 pieces round, so that those inside high borders are in the place where the number 1 piece is, you'll see that it's now slightly blocked on the inside. That those 2 gaps in there make it harder and pretty much impossible for this number 1 piece to slide on and off and out of the hole in the shell pieces. And if we were to make it even worse still, the order, and we were to have the number 3 piece with the big outside borders adjacent to the number 1 piece, you'll see that that gap now is even smaller because of that big ridge on the outside of that piece and the inside ridge on the inside of that piece there. So that's essentially what we're aiming for. We need to arrange these 4 pieces into this position here so that this number 1 piece can then, when we hold them correctly, slide on and off much more easily. And it is this piece that is coming through the shell piece first. So now you know what it looks like inside the 4 ball pieces. Now the question is, how do we get the right order? And the short answer to that is it's just a guesswork and trial and error, but we can make that trial and error much easier by identifying at least one of the pieces. And if you open up a gap in the middle of the puzzle like this, or in the middle of the ball pieces, you can identify, you might not be able to see this on camera, but you can identify the big lip, the big outside border of the number 3 piece, which again, you might not be able to see it, but it is this piece here. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring that number 3 piece to the bottom because that's where it needs to be for the first actual move. Now once we've identified the number 3 piece, we now need to just do a trial and error method to get these 3 pieces all in the right area, or in the right position, and also the right way round. Because we need the 2 borders, the two pieces with the high borders adjacent to this number 3 piece, and then the number 1 piece on top here. Now, again, there's no way of definitely knowing it, so we're just going to trial and error our way through it. So what we're going to do for the first move is we're going to bring the corners of each 4 pieces down to this lip of the shell piece here. And then we're going to use gravity to help us slide that number 1 piece out, assuming that we've got that number 1 piece in the right position here. So we're going to tilt it on its side, we're going to use gravity here, we're going to place just 1 finger on what we hope is the number 1 piece, and we're just going to wiggle side to side. And it just so happens that this is the right position. And you'll know that because the edge of the number 1 piece will come over the lip of the shell pieces here, and all you have to then do is just give it a bit of a wiggle and take it out from there. Now if we assume that that wasn't the right combination, let's say it didn't happen or you didn't get it right first time, again this is the number 3 piece, we're then just going to try one of the other 3 possible combinations of taking that number 1 piece out in the right position. So if this was wrong, let's assume, then all we need to do is swap those 2 pieces around and try the same thing. Get the cross down to the lip, tilt it on its side for gravity, put 1 finger on and just wiggle. Nothing happens, we know that that's not the right position. So again, we're going to try one of the other 2 combinations that are left. So again, this is the number 3 piece here. We're going to swap these 2 pieces around and we're going to try again. We're going to get the corners down to the lip. We're going to use gravity. We're going to put a finger on and wiggle. It's not the right piece. The last possible combination is then swapping these 2 pieces around and trying again. And if those first 3 positions didn't work, we know for a fact that when we bring the corners down to the lip, when we use gravity and wiggle the finger, then it is going to be the right position and that number 1 piece is going to fall out. For me, I know that that first position was right, so if we go straight back to that position, we'll do that move again. So this is the right combination. We can just double check. This is the number 3 piece down here. So we're going to bring them together. We're going to bring that corner down to that bottom lip of the shell piece. We're going to use gravity, and then we're just going to put a finger on it and wiggle, and we can pull that number 1 piece out from there. Once we've done that, we can then, there's obviously more space inside, we can see that we definitely got it right with the order. What we can then do is the same sort of position or same sort of move to get one of the 2 pieces out next. And again, same thing. This can be a lot more fiddly because there's now a big sort of quarter of the space for the other 3 pieces to sort of slip and slide into. But it's the same principle. Get one of the 2 pieces to the corner, get it over that lip, and when it's in the right position, this is probably the hardest bit I find in terms of fiddliness. You get it to the lip, use gravity when it doesn't slip and slide all over the place, and eventually we take that number 2 piece out from there. And for the last 2 pieces, it is possible to take them through this gap as well, but it's much easier if you just maneuver these bottom 2 pieces into the right position and just separate the shell pieces instead. It's much less fiddly. And that is a very long-winded explanation of how you separate all 6 pieces of the UFO puzzle. And to reassemble the UFO puzzle, we're going to take the shell piece with the Hanayama engraving on it, and we're going to make sure that we put these the ball pieces in the right order. So we're going to put the number 3 piece in, and we're going to put a number 2 piece in with the high side adjacent to that number 3 piece. We're then going to take the other shell piece with the UFO engraving on it, and we're going to slide those 2 pieces together. Then, because we can see inside the puzzle or inside this gap to see which piece is which, we're then going to put this other number 2 piece alongside the number 3 piece, the high side adjacent to the number 3 piece. And I found that it's easier when you put in these two pieces back in. If you do it from a side-on position and slide in from there. And I actually find it harder putting this third bit back in than I do the final bit. But once it's in, when it eventually goes in, there we go. Then what we can do is, it should already be in the right position. These three pieces should now be in this position. You can see, or you might be able to see the shorter sides of the number 2 pieces are what we can see, and the number 3 pieces down underneath here. And what we can then do is tilt the puzzle sideways, just because it's easier to put it back in, and slide that number 1 piece in there. And that is how we reassemble the UFO puzzle. So there we go, that is how you disassemble and then reassemble the UFO puzzle. It's a very, very, very tough puzzle to do, even when you know the solution. Hopefully the explanation of what is inside those 4 pieces, the ball pieces, is helpful in the end game of getting them out of those 2 shell pieces. For myself, I know it clarifies like what I'm doing and what I'm looking for. Even though there is a trial and error process, I think seeing inside each piece does help. And hopefully you agree with that and you have now solved the UFO puzzle for yourself. If you want to check out more puzzles like the UFO puzzle, then check out our website puzzlemaster.ca, where we have the biggest variety of puzzles on the internet in the world. And until next time, I will see you later.